In this tutorial, we're going to recreate these mitosis and split personality effects in Blender. The best part is we won't need to model anything. I'll be using Blender 3.0, and I'll do my best to explain every step of the process. First, we will see how to achieve the effect using two spheres. Then, I will apply the same process to the human head. Feel free to jump to the second part of this video if you are experienced with the mirror modifier. Delete the default cube and the light. Then, create an empty and a UV sphere. On the bottom left corner, you can see this little menu where you can change the properties of the sphere. Set the numbers of segments to 64 and the numbers of rings to 32. With the sphere selected, go to Modifiers and add the Mirror modifier. On Mirror Object, select the empty we just created. You'll see nothing has changed yet. Select the empty and move it slightly on the X-axis. You'll see another sphere appears. Do not place it too far from the original. Actually, we want some overlap. To create the mitosis effect, increment the merge option of the mirror modifier until it looks good. If you move the sphere, the effect will break. The reason is the mirror modifier is affecting the distance between the origins of the sphere and the empty. To fix this, you can parent them both to another empty object. I'll rename my first empty to mirror control, then create a new one and name it mitosis container. If you go to the Object Data Properties tab, you can change the display size of the empty. Select the sphere, then shift-click on the mirror control empty and shift-click on the mitosis container empty. Then Ctrl-P and select Set Parent to Object. Now you can move the mitosis container without affecting the distance between the origins of the sphere and the mirror control. You can also scale if you need to, and the effect remains the same. We can also animate the split easily. With the mirror control empty selected, go to the first frame. Set it to 000. Then, press I to set a keyframe on location. Go to frame 50, move the mirror control on the X-axis until it's completely separated from the original sphere. Press I to add another keyframe. Now, go to frame 10. Select the sphere, go to Modifiers and set a keyframe on the merge distance by pressing I. Go to frame 1, set 0 on the merge distance and set another keyframe. Press the spacebar to play the animation. There it is! You can play with the settings and keyframes until you are satisfied. To make it look better, you can add a subdivision surface modifier on top of the sphere. That way, there's more geometry for the mirror modifier to merge. Do not overdo it too much to avoid performance issues. Finally, right-click the sphere and select Shade Smooth. If you want to make it look more realistic, I suggest you check some footage of actual mitosis, as the cells squish and deform during the process. Let's move to the second part. To make the human head, I'm using the free plugin MVLab. I'll leave the link in the description below, but you should be able to replicate this workflow with any human model. If you haven't worked with this plugin before, I suggest you check this great tutorial by Ali Arango. I'll leave the link in the description too. Let's do a quick tour through this add-on. Download the plugin from the official site. It's a zip file. Place it in a folder of your choice and do not extract it. Go to Blender, Edit, Preferences, Add-ons, and click Install. Locate and select the zip file. Enable the add-on, and finally click on the menu on the bottom left corner and click Save Preferences or check that you have the autosave on. That way, the add-on will be enabled the next time you open Blender. Now, on the 3D view, if you press N, there's a new tab named MVLab. This menu allows you to create humans with a few clicks. I'll select the Caucasian male and click Create Character. It may take a while to load. There are a lot of options you can tweak with this add-on. If you are interested, check the tutorial I leave below. In this video, we'll skip everything and press Finalize Tools, then Finalize with Textures and Backup. Select a folder to save the character textures that the add-on generates. To give an expression to the character quickly, use the Face Expressions button. If you want more control, use the Face Rig option instead. I will select the Furious 03 expression and set it all the way up. I will also change the position of the head. To do that, select the armature, Ctrl-Tab to enter pose mode, and select the bones you want to rotate. To make it easier, you can enable the X-ray option. I will move the head to look up and to his right. For the next step, we want to apply this pose to the mesh, so select the character mesh. Make sure you are selecting the mesh, not the armature. Go to Modifiers and apply the armature. You will get this error. Basically, what it means is that you need to get rid of the shape keys before applying the armature. The shape keys are in the Object Data Properties tab. If you click this down arrow button, you can delete them all at once using the Delete All Shape Keys option. But doing so makes you lose the expression on the face. Undo this action. So, this got me frustrated for a while until I found a solution on Stack Overflow. I'll leave the link on the description too. To fix our problem, we will use a built-in add-on named Corrective Shape Keys. After enabling the add-on, if you go back to the Shape Keys arrow menu, there's a new option, Create Duplicate for Editing. This option creates a new mesh with all modifiers applied and no shape keys, while keeping the original mesh and armature. This is great, so in case you want to go back to modify your mesh, you can. I'll hide the original and name it Human Backup. We want to keep just the head. You could go into edit mode and delete all the unwanted vertices, but I recommend using a Boolean modifier instead. Create a new cube and reposition it to cover everything but the head. If you scaled the cube in this process, press Ctrl-A to apply the scale. This is essential to avoid issues later on. Select the clean mesh of the human, add a Boolean modifier, under Object, select the cube. Hide the cube and you'll see only the head remains. For the next step, we have to apply the Boolean modifier. I always like to have the option to go back before any destructive operation. So, I'll create a duplicate by pressing Shift-D and Escape so it remains in the same place. Then, move one of the heads and the cube to a new collection named Head Backup and hide it. With the head selected, go to Modifiers and apply the Boolean modifier. Now add an empty object, select the head, add a mirror modifier, and select the empty as object. You'll see it's not behaving as before with the spheres. The reason is the origin of the head is at the feet of the original character. We want the origin to be in the center of the mesh. So, select the head, then Object, set origin to geometry. We also want the empty and the head to have the origin in the same coordinates. So, with the head selected, press Shift-S and click Selection to Cursor. Now, select the empty and move it in the X-axis. Select the mesh, go to Modifiers and increase the merge distance until you are satisfied with the result. You can fine-tune the effect by going into Edit mode, press A to select all and move the geometry as you want. This works because the origin of the mesh is not modified in Edit mode. If you enable the shading view, you'll see all materials are properly set, but the mirrored eyes look weird. The only fix I found was applying the mirror modifier and it still looks a bit weird in one of the eyes. If you know how to solve this, please let me know in the comments. Once more, I'll create a backup before the next action. Then apply the modifier. This is it! You can play with the settings as much as you want. In my original render, I made one final touch. Select the mesh and go into Edit mode by pressing Tab. Enable the X-ray mode and select one of the heads. With the X-ray mode, you can select the vertices behind and inside, which in this case are the eyes. Now you can rotate and reposition the selected head. In my opinion, this gives a more organic feeling. Also, since you have the final geometry as a mesh, you can fix and tweak any vertex. In this case, I want to adjust the eyes union. So, go into Edit mode, select one vertex and turn Proportional Editing on. You can do that by clicking this button on the top or pressing O. With the scroll wheel, you can adjust the area to proportional edit effects. By default, it's huge, so be careful. Then, move the vertex as you prefer. If you see a vertical line between the eyes, you may have mirrored the eyelashes. To fix this, you'll have to clean a bit the mesh in edit mode. I'll fast forward this part. For rendering, add a quick set of 3 lights and position the camera. On the render settings for the samples, I find 128 to be enough with the noise option enabled, but you can go as high as you want. Under Film, check Transparent. Now go to the Compositing tab and enable Use Nodes. I, personally, can't stand working with the backdrop, so I disable it, split my view, select Image Editor, and select Viewer Result. Then I add a viewer node to the compositing view and connect the image. This way, my nodes and image are on separate views. Render your image and wait until it's done. To create the background, go to the Compositing tab and add an ellipse mask node. If you have the Node Wrangler add-on enabled, you can Ctrl-Shift-click any node and it will be connected to the viewer automatically. This helps you see what each node does. Play with the ellipse mask settings until you get a shape you like. Then add a blur node. Set Fast Gaussian, check Relative and set a percentage that gives you a smooth gradient. Add an alpha over node and connect the ellipse on top, the rendered image on the bottom. Adjust the ellipse mask if you need it. Add a color ramp after the blur node, so you can change the color of the background. I'll set it to a bluish one. Finally, click Image, Save As, and select a location and name for your file. Obviously, you can play more with the compositing and make it look as you prefer. For example, I will add a color balance after the image to integrate it more with the background. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If so, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. I want to thank I'mNavy22 for kindly asking me how to make this on Instagram and giving me the motivation to make my first Blender tutorial. Thank you!